The call came at 3:47 a.m. Trauma incoming. Multiple GSWs ETA 2 minutes. I was already moving before the intercom finished crackling. 3 years in Manhattan Memorial's trauma unit had trained my body to respond before my brain caught up. Coffee abandoned. Rubs straightened. Hands scrubbed and gloved in the time it took to reach the ambulance bay. "What do we know?" I asked Dr. Chen as we waited for the doors to burst open. Male. Mid-30s. At least 3 gunshot wounds, chest, abdomen, shoulder. Massive blood loss. Sarah's face was grim. "They're saying he coded twice in the ambulance." "Who is he?" "No ID. The men who brought him weren't exactly chatty." She glanced toward the waiting room where I could see shadows moving. Large men in dark suits. The kind of men who didn't answer questions. "Elena, this feels wrong. Maybe we should call security." "He's a patient. We treat patients." I pulled my hair back tighter. "Whatever else he is, that comes later." The doors exploded open. The gurney came through surrounded by paramedics shouting vitals I could barely process. Blood everywhere. So much blood. It soaked the sheets, dripped onto the floor, painted the hands of everyone trying to keep this man alive. BP crashing. "We're losing him." I moved on instinct, joining the controlled chaos, my hands finding their place in the dance of emergency medicine. Chest compressions. Defibrillator charged. The flat line on the monitor screaming at us that we were failing. "Clear." His body jerked. "Nothing." Again. "Clear." "Nothing." "Come on," I muttered, pressing harder on his chest. "Don't you dare die on my table." I don't know why I said it. I'd lost patients before. Death was part of this job, as certain as the sunrise. But something about this man, the way his face looked almost peaceful despite the violence that had been done to him, made me refuse to let go. One more time. "Clear." The monitor beeped once, twice. Then a rhythm, weak but steady, fighting its way back to life. "We've got him," Sarah breathed. "Jesus, Elena. We've got him." The next 4 hours were a blur of surgery and transfusions and the constant, terrifying possibility that we'd lose him anyway. 3 bullets. One had nicked his heart. Another had perforated his intestine. The third had shattered his shoulder blade. Someone had wanted this man very dead, and somehow, impossibly, he'd survived. By the time we moved him to the ICU, dawn was breaking over Manhattan. I should have gone home. My shift had ended hours ago. But I couldn't leave. I sat beside his bed, monitoring vitals that had finally stabilized, watching the rise and fall of his chest as machines breathed for him. He was handsome. I realized now that the blood was cleaned away. Sharp features. Dark hair that fell across his forehead. The kind of face that belonged in Renaissance paintings, beautiful and slightly cruel. Who was he? Who had shot him? And why did I feel like saving his life had just changed mine? "You should go home." I turned to find Marco, that was the name one of the suited men had given, standing in the doorway. He was big, dark-haired, with eyes that had seen things I didn't want to imagine. "I want to make sure he's stable." "He's stable because of you." Marco moved closer, his voice dropping. "The doctors say he should have died. 3 times over, he should have died. But you wouldn't let him." "I was doing my job." "You were doing more than your job. I watched you. You fought for him like he mattered to you. Every patient matters to me." "Not like this." Marco studied me with unsettling intensity. "He'll want to meet you. When he wakes up, he'll want to thank the woman who saved his life." "That's not necessary." "It is to him." Marco pulled a card from his pocket, pressing it into my hand. "When he's awake, call this number. Day or night. He'll want to see you." He left before I could argue. I looked at the card. Heavy stock. Expensive. Just a phone number, no name. Then I looked at the man in the bed. Still unconscious. Still fighting. Still a mystery I had no business trying to solve. I should have thrown the card away. I put it in my pocket instead. He woke up 3 days later. I wasn't supposed to be there. Wasn't even supposed to be working. I'd been ordered to take time off after the marathon shift that had saved his life. But I couldn't stay away, so I traded shifts with another nurse. Told myself it was professional concern. Pretended I wasn't drawn to his room like a moth to flame. I was checking his vitals when his eyes opened. They were green. Not the pale green of spring leaves, but deep and dark, like a forest at twilight. And they were fixed on me with an intensity that stole my breath. You. His voice was rough from the breathing tube we'd removed yesterday. Barely a whisper. You're the one. I'm your nurse. Elena Vasquez. I kept my voice professional, my hands steady as I adjusted his fore. How are you feeling? Like I was shot 3 times. A ghost of a smile. But alive. Because of you. The whole team don't. His hand caught mine. His grip surprisingly strong for a man who'd been dead 3 days ago. I asked. They told me. You're the one who wouldn't stop. Who brought me back when everyone else was ready to give up. I was doing my job. You were doing more than that. Those green eyes held mine. What's your name again? Elena. Elena. He said it like a prayer. Like a promise. I'm Dante. I know. Dante Moretti. I'd done my research. Couldn't help myself. The men in suits, the expensive private room, the whispered conversations that stopped whenever medical staff approached, it all pointed to one conclusion. You're the head of the Moretti family. Almost. My father still holds that title. But soon. He trailed off, something dark crossing his expression. Someone didn't want me to live long enough to take over. Do you know who? I have suspicions. His grip on my hand tightened. But that's not your concern. Your concern is that you saved my life. And in my world that creates a debt. I don't want anything from you. It doesn't matter what you want. What matters is what I owe. He pulled me closer, close enough that I could see the gold flecks in those green eyes. You belong to me now, Elena Vasquez. I yanked my hand back. Excuse me? You saved my life. That life now belongs to you. And what belongs to you belongs to me. His smile was slight but devastating. That's how it works in my world. Well, this isn't your world. This is a hospital. And you're my patient. Nothing more. We'll see. There's nothing to see. You'll recover. You'll leave. And I'll go back to my normal life. I backed toward the door. I'll send Dr. Chen to complete your evaluation. Elena. I stopped, hating myself for stopping. Thank you. His voice was soft now, sincere. Whatever happens next, thank you for fighting for me. No one's ever done that before. I left without responding, but his words followed me down the hallway, wrapping around my heart like chains I couldn't see. You belong to me now. I told myself it meant nothing. The ramblings of a man high on painkillers and trauma. By tomorrow, he'd forget he'd ever said it. I told myself a lot of things that night. None of them turned out to be true. The flowers arrived the next morning, not a bouquet. An entire garden's worth of roses, red and white and pink, filling my tiny apartment until I could barely move. The card was simple. For Elena. DI called the number on Marco's card before I could stop myself. Miss Vasquez. Marco's voice was unsurprised. Mr. Moretti was hoping to hear from you. Tell Mr. Moretti that I can't accept these flowers. There must be hundreds of dollars worth here. Thousands, actually. And he was quite insistent. I don't care how insistent he was. I'm his nurse, not his... I stopped, unsure how to finish that sentence. Not his what? Not his anything. I saved his life because that's my job. I don't need payment or gratitude or an apartment full of flowers. Perhaps you should tell him that yourself. He's been asking about you. He's been conscious for less than 24 hours. And he spent most of that time asking about the nurse who saved him. Marco paused. He's never done this before, Miss Vasquez. Shown interest in anyone. You've affected him. I don't want to affect him. I want to do my job and go home. Then perhaps you should come see him. Explain that in person. He's more likely to listen if you're in the room. I should have said no. Should have hung up and donated the flowers to the hospital chapel and never thought about Dante Moretti again. Fine, I heard myself say. I'll come tonight. After my shift. He'll be expecting you. I hung up and stared at the roses surrounding me. What the hell was I doing? I went to his room at midnight. The hospital was quiet, the halls dim with overnight lighting. The suited men outside Dante's door nodded at me like they'd been expecting me, which of course they had. Inside. Dante was awake, sitting up in bed, looking far more alive than he had any right to look. Someone had brought him a laptop, papers, what looked like business reports. As if nearly dying was just a minor inconvenience in his schedule. Elena. His face transformed when he saw me. You came. I came to return these. I held up the card from the flowers. I can't accept gifts from patients. You're not my nurse anymore. I checked. You're not assigned to my case. That doesn't change anything. It changes everything. He set aside his work, giving me his full attention. Come. Sit. Talk to me. There's nothing to talk about. There's everything to talk about. He gestured to the chair beside his bed. Please. 5 minutes. Then you can leave and never see me again if that's what you want. I sat. Against my better judgment. Against every instinct screaming that this man was dangerous in ways I couldn't comprehend. Why are you doing this? I asked. The flowers. The requests to see me. I'm nobody to you. You're the woman who saved my life. That makes you the furthest thing from nobody. Lots of people were involved in saving your life. But only one refused to give up. Only one kept fighting when everyone else had accepted the inevitable. His eyes held mine. I've been surrounded by people my whole life. Family. Associates. Please. But no one has ever fought for me the way you did. I fight for all my patients. Maybe. But I felt you. He touched his chest, over the bandages that covered his healing wounds. When I was in the darkness, I felt someone pulling me back. A voice telling me not to give up. That was you. You were unconscious. My body was unconscious. My soul wasn't. He reached for my hand and I let him take it. I don't know why. Something connected us that night, Elena. You can deny it. You can run from it. But it's there. I feel it every time you're in the room. You don't even know me. Then let me know you. His thumb traced circles on my palm. Have dinner with me. When I'm discharged. One dinner. Proper thank you. And if you still want nothing to do with me after that, I'll respect your wishes. One dinner. One dinner. I promise. I should have said no. Should have pulled my hand away and walked out and never looked back, but those green eyes held something I recognized. Loneliness. The same bone-deep isolation I saw in my own mirror every morning. One dinner, I heard myself say. But that's it. That's all you get. His smile was like sunrise. That's all I need. I left his room with his touch still burning on my skin and the terrible certainty that one dinner would never be enough, not for him and not, I was beginning to realize, for me. Dante was discharged 10 days after he'd arrived at Manhattan Memorial in a body bag that almost became permanent. I wasn't there when he left. Deliberately. I'd traded shifts again, this time to avoid him, telling myself it was professional distance when we both knew it was cowardice, but I couldn't avoid the text that arrived that evening. Tomorrow. 7 p.m. The Marco will pick you up. Wear something comfortable. DI stared at the message for a full minute before typing back. How did you get this number? I find what I need to find. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. Tomorrow. Don't be late. I should have canceled. Should have blocked his number and forgotten I'd ever made the promise of one dinner. Instead, I spent the next day agonizing over what to wear. You're going on a date with the mafia boss. My reflection stared back at me, equal parts terrified and exhilarated. A man who literally said you belonged to him. This is insane. The reflection didn't argue. I settled on a simple black dress, nothing too fancy but elegant enough to not embarrass myself. Comfortable, he'd said. Like he knew I'd overthink it. Marco arrived at exactly 7 p.m., driving a black SUV with tinted windows. He opened the door for me without a word, his expression unreadable. Where are we going? I asked as we pulled away from my building. Mr. Moretti wanted it to be a surprise. I don't like surprises. He thought you might say that. Marco almost smiled. He said to tell you that if you hate it, you can leave immediately and he'll never bother you again. And if I don't hate it, then perhaps you'll stay for dessert. We drove for nearly an hour, leaving the city behind, winding through roads I didn't recognize until we reached a gate that seemed to appear out of nowhere. The Moretti estate was not what I expected. I'd imagined something cold and imposing. A fortress of stone and security designed to intimidate. Instead, I found warmth. A sprawling house that looked more like a Mediterranean villa than a crime lord's compound. Gardens even in winter. Lights strung through bare trees like captured stars. He did this for you, Marco said quietly, following my gaze to the lights. This morning. Said he wanted you to see it the way he sees it. How does he see it? Like home. The only real home he's ever known. Marco led me through the front doors into an entrance hall that smelled like cedar and something cooking. Dante was waiting at the bottom of a grand staircase, looking impossibly healthy for a man who'd been shot 3 times 2 weeks ago. He wore dark pants and a white shirt, unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms I had no business noticing. The bandages were gone, replaced by scars that would never fully fade. Elena. My name in his mouth still did things to me I didn't want to examine. You came. I said I would. You also looked for every possible way to avoid me for the past 10 days. He moved closer and I caught his scent, sandalwood and something darker. I was beginning to think you'd changed your mind. I considered it. What stopped you? Curiosity. It wasn't entirely a lie. You said you wanted me to know you. So here I am. Show me who you are. Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe. Or respect. Follow me. He led me through the house, not to a formal dining room as I'd expected, but to a kitchen. A massive, warm kitchen with copper pots hanging from the ceiling and a fire crackling in a hearth and the most incredible aromas filling the air. You cook? I couldn't hide my disbelief. My mother taught me. Before she died. He moved to the stove, checking something in a pot. She believed that a man who couldn't feed himself wasn't really a man at all. And a man who runs a criminal empire can still make a decent risotto. He glanced back at me, that ghost of a smile playing on his lips. Sit. Drink. Let me finish this. I sat at the kitchen island, accepting the glass of wine he poured, watching him move through the kitchen with surprising grace. He cooked like he did everything else, with intense focus and complete control. You're staring, he observed without turning around. I'm confused. About what? About you. I sipped my wine. 2 weeks ago, you told me I belonged to you. Now you're cooking me dinner like a normal person. Which one is real? Both. He stirred something fragrant. I'm a man of contradictions, Elena. I can order someone's death in the morning and cry over a beautiful piece of music at night. I can be ruthless with enemies and gentle with people I care about. And which am I? Enemy or someone you care about? He turned to face me, his expression serious. You saved my life. You're in a category all your own. Dinner was served at a small table by the fire, risotto with mushrooms and truffle. Fresh bread still warm from the oven. A salad with ingredients I couldn't identify but tasted like summer. "This is incredible," I admitted after my first bite. "How does a crime lord learn to cook like this?" "The same way anyone learns. Practice. Patience. A willingness to fail repeatedly until you get it right." He watched me eat with obvious pleasure. "My mother was a chef before she married my father. She gave up her career for his world, but she never gave up her kitchen. Do you miss her?" "Every day." His voice softened. "She died when I was 19. Cancer. It took her slowly, which was almost worse than if it had been quick." "My mother died of cancer too." The words came out before I could stop them. 3 years ago. Breast cancer. By the time they found it, it had spread everywhere." "Is that why you became a nurse?" "Partly. I wanted to help people the way I couldn't help her." I set down my fork. "She spent her last months in a hospital. The nurses there, they were angels. They couldn't save her, but they made sure she wasn't alone. Wasn't afraid. When she died, I was holding her hand. So was her favorite nurse." Dante was quiet for a moment. "I wasn't there when my mother died," he said finally. "My father sent me away on business. Said I needed to learn the trade. By the time I got back, she was gone." His jaw tightened. "I've never forgiven him for that. Some things can't be forgiven. No. They can only be survived." His eyes met mine. "We have that in common, Elena. We've both survived things that should have broken us. Is that why you're interested in me? Shared trauma. I'm interested in you because you're extraordinary. The trauma is just..." He paused, searching for the word. "Context. A language we both speak." The fire crackled between us. The wine warmed my blood. And somehow, impossibly, I found myself relaxing. "Tell me about your world," I said. "The real version. Not the sanitized one you probably give to everyone else. Are you sure you want to know? I'm having dinner with the mafia boss. I think we're past the point of polite ignorance." He laughed, a real laugh surprised out of him, and something in my chest tightened. "My family has controlled certain operations in New York for 4 generations. Protection. Gambling. Import and export of goods the government prefers to pretend don't exist." He refilled my wine glass. "It's not glamorous. It's not exciting. It's mostly paperwork and meetings and making sure that everyone under our protection stays safe." "And the violence?" "Exists. I won't lie to you about that." His expression darkened. "There are people who want what we have. People who would hurt innocents to get it. Sometimes violence is the only language they understand. Like whoever shot you. Like whoever shot me." He nodded. "I have suspicions. A rival family, the Bianchis, have been pushing into our territory for months. They want what my father built. And with him getting older, preparing to step down, they saw an opportunity. They saw a threat to eliminate. If I die, my father has no clear successor. The organization fractures. The Bianchis move in." His hand found mine across the table. "They almost succeeded. Would have if not for you. I was just doing my job. You were doing more than that. You were fighting." His thumb traced my knuckles. "I've been surrounded by fighters my whole life. Men who kill and die for money or loyalty or fear. But you fought for me when you had nothing to gain. When you didn't even know my name. Every life has value. Does it? In my world, lives are currency. Traded, spent, discarded." His grip tightened. "But you treated my life like it mattered. Like I mattered. Do you have any idea how rare that is? Dante, I know you think I'm obsessed. That this attention is some kind of trauma response or misplaced gratitude. He released my hand, leaning back. Maybe it is. But it's also something else. Something I haven't felt in a very long time. What? Hope. His voice cracked on the word. Hope that maybe I don't have to be alone forever. That somewhere out there is someone who sees me, really sees me, and doesn't run away. I'm sitting here, aren't I? For one dinner. That was the deal. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. After tonight, you go back to your life. Your hospital. Your normal, safe existence. And I go back to mine. Is that what you want? It's what you should want. What any sane person would want. He stood, beginning to clear the dishes. But if you're asking what I want, I'm asking. He stopped, his back to me, shoulders tense. I want you to stay. Not just tonight. Not just for dinner. He turned to face me. I want to know everything about you. Your fears, your dreams, the way you take your coffee in the morning. I want to be the person you call when something wonderful happens and the person you lean on when everything falls apart. We've known each other for 2 weeks. I've known you for a lifetime. He crossed back to me, crouching beside my chair so our eyes were level. I felt you, Elena. In the darkness. When I was dying. Your voice, your hands, your refusal to let me go. You were the only real thing in a void of nothing. That was medicine. Adrenaline. Not destiny. Maybe. Or maybe it was something more. His hand cupped my face, gentle as the first time he touched me. Tell me you don't feel it. Tell me there's nothing between us, and I'll let you walk out that door and never contact you again. I should have said it. Should have spoken the words that would set me free, but looking into those green eyes, feeling his warmth, remembering the way his heart had stopped and started under my hands, I couldn't lie. I feel it, I whispered. God help me, I feel it too. His kiss was soft. Questioning. Nothing like what I'd expected from a man who controlled empires and ordered deaths and lived in a world of violence. It was tender. Reverent. Like I was something precious he was afraid to break. When we separated, his forehead rested against mine. Say, he breathed. Not forever. Just tonight. Let me show you who I am when I'm not dying in a hospital bed. I should have said no. Hey, I whispered instead. I'll stay. I woke up in sheets that smelled like sandalwood and a man I barely knew. The morning light filtered through curtains I didn't recognize, casting golden patterns across a ceiling far too high to be my tiny queen's apartment. For a moment I forgot where I was, then an arm tightened around my waist and everything came flooding back. You're thinking too loud. Dante's voice was rough with sleep, his breath warm against my neck. I can hear it from here. I'm trying to figure out how I got here. You walked. Well, I carried you the last part. You fell asleep during the movie. We watched a movie? Casablanca. You said it was your favorite. You lasted approximately 23 minutes before you were unconscious on my shoulder. I felt him smile against my skin. It was adorable. I don't do adorable. You do with me. I turned in his arms to face him. In the morning light, he looked different. Younger. The hard edges softened by sleep. The scars on his chest, my handiwork in a way, stood out pink against his olive skin. Nothing happened, I said, needing to be sure. You fell asleep. I put you to bed. I slept beside you because you asked me to. His eyes searched mine. I'm not the kind of man who takes advantage of unconscious women, Elena. I didn't think, you did think. It's okay. His hand found my face, tracing my cheekbone. You don't know me yet. You have every right to be cautious. You're being very understanding for a man who told me I belong to him. You do belong to me. But that doesn't mean I own you. He sat up, the sheets pooling around his waist, and I tried not to stare at the body I'd worked so hard to save. In my world, belonging is protection. Loyalty. Means I would burn cities for you, die for you, kill for you. I didn't ask for any of that. You didn't have to. You saved my life. That creates a bond that goes beyond asking. He reached for my hand. Stay for breakfast. Let me explain properly. I have a shift in 4 hours. Then stay for coffee. Please. Please did it. Such a simple word from a man who probably never used it. Coffee, I agreed. Then I have to go. We had coffee in his kitchen, sitting at the same island where I'd watched him cook the night before. He made it perfectly, strong but not bitter, with just the right amount of cream. How did you know how I take my coffee? I asked Marco to find out. He talked to one of the nurses at your hospital. That's incredibly invasive. That's incredibly thorough. There's a difference. He smiled over his cup. I wanted to get it right. Why? Why does it matter so much? Because you matter. He set down his cup. Elena, I've spent my entire life surrounded by people who want something from me. Money. Power. Protection. Everyone has an angle. Everyone has an agenda. And you think I'm different? I know you're different. You saved my life without knowing who I was. Without expecting payment. Without calculating what you could get in return. His voice softened. Do you have any idea how rare that is in my world? Maybe your world needs better people. Maybe it does. He reached across the island, his fingers brushing mine. Maybe that's why I need you. The words hung between us, heavy with implication. Dante, I can't just become part of your world. I have a job. A life. Responsibilities that don't involve gunshot wounds and criminal empires. I'm not asking you to abandon your life. I'm asking you to let me be part of it. His grip tightened. Keep working. Keep saving lives. Just let me see you. Take you to dinner. Call you when I miss you, which will be constantly, by the way. You miss me already? I've been missing you since the moment you left my hospital room. His thumb traced circles on my palm. I know this is fast. I know I'm overwhelming. But I've spent 34 years feeling nothing for anyone, and then you came along and made me feel everything. I don't know how to do this slowly. Try. The words surprised us both. Try, he repeated. Try to go slow. Try to be normal. Try to woo me like a regular person instead of a mafia boss who thinks he owns me. I pulled my hand back, but gently. I'm not saying no. I'm saying give me time. Give us time. How much time? I don't know. Until I'm ready. Ready for what? Ready to admit that I feel the same way you do. Confession slipped out before I could stop it. Because I do, Dante. I feel everything too. And it terrifies me. His expression transformed. The hope and hunger and something achingly vulnerable. Then I'll wait. As long as it takes. He stood, rounding the island to stand before me. But I'm not going to pretend I don't want you. That every minute you're not here doesn't feel like a wound reopening. That I don't think about you constantly, wondering what you're doing, if you're safe, if you're thinking about me too. That sounds exhausting. It's exhilarating. He cupped my face in his hands. You've ruined me, Elena Vasquez. And I don't want to be fixed. He kissed me then, slower than last night, deeper, with a promise that made my knees weak. Go to work, he murmured against my lips. Save lives. Be extraordinary. And then let me take you to dinner this week. One dinner turned into one night. What does a second dinner turn into? Whatever you want it to. His smile was devastating. But I'm hoping for forever. I went back to my normal life, daughter. I tried to, but normal didn't feel the same anymore. The hospital that had been my sanctuary now felt like a cage. The routine that had sustained me now felt hollow. Every patient I treated made me think of green eyes and scarred chest and a voice that whispered, "You belong to me." Dr. Chen noticed immediately. "You're distracted," she observed during a quiet moment in the break room. "You've been distracted all week." "What's going on?" "Nothing." "Liar." Sarah sat across from me. "This is about the Moretti patient, isn't it? The one who sent you enough flowers to fill a funeral home." "He didn't send that many flowers. He sent more flowers after he was discharged. I saw the delivery truck outside your building." Her eyes narrowed. "Elena, are you seeing him? We had dinner. 1 dinner, 2 dinners, and some texting, and maybe a phone call every night before bed." Sarah's expression shifted from concern to alarm. "You're dating a mafia boss. I'm getting to know a patient who was grateful I saved his life. Patient who runs organized crime in New York. Patient who was shot 3 times by people who want him dead. A patient who could get you killed just by association. He's also kind and funny and surprisingly good at cooking risotto. I'm sure Ted Bundy had charming qualities too. Don't compare him to a serial killer. I'm not comparing him to anyone. I'm pointing out that you're a smart woman making a stupid decision." Sarah leaned forward. "I've seen this before, Elena. Women who get involved with dangerous men thinking they can change them. It never ends well. I'm not trying to change him." "Then what are you trying to do?" "I don't know." The admission was painful. "I don't know what I'm doing. I just know that when I'm with him I feel seen. Like he knows exactly who I am and wants me anyway. That's hormones. Chemistry. It's not a foundation for a relationship. Maybe not. But it's a start." Sarah was quiet for a long moment. "Just be careful," she said finally. "Please. You're my friend. I don't want to identify your body in the morgue. That's dark. That's realistic." She stood. "We're going for drinks after our shift. You're going to tell me everything. And I'm going to try very hard not to say 'I told you so' when this all falls apart. Thanks for the vote of confidence. That's what friends are for." The attack came 2 weeks later that I was leaving the hospital after a double shift, exhausted and thinking about nothing except my bed, when a car pulled up beside me. For a moment I thought it was Marco. Thought Dante had sent someone to surprise me, the way he'd been doing with flowers and texts and occasionally showing up at my apartment with takeout and movies. Then the door opened, and a man I didn't recognize grabbed my arm. "Get in." "Let go of me." Something pressed against my ribs. Cold. Metallic. A gun. "Get in the car, Miss Vasquez. Mr. Bianchi wants to meet you." Fear turned my blood to ice. I'd heard that name before. Bianchi. The family Dante suspected of shooting him. "I don't know anyone named Bianchi. But you know Dante Moretti. And that makes you interesting." The man's smile was cold. "Get in. Now. Or I'll shoot you here and leave your body for the morning shift to find." I got in the car. The drive was silent and terrifying. I was blindfolded shortly after we started moving, leaving me in darkness with nothing but my racing heart and the certainty that I was about to die. When the blindfold finally came off, I was in a warehouse. Industrial. Cold. The kind of place where people disappeared. A man sat across from me, elegant and silver-haired, with eyes that held no warmth at all. "Miss Vasquez, I apologize for the dramatic introduction." His voice was cultured, almost pleasant. "I'm Enzo Bianchi, and I believe we have much to discuss." "I don't have anything to discuss with you." "No? Then let me explain what you do have." He leaned forward. "You have a connection to Dante Moretti. Connection he values highly if my sources are correct. And in my business, valuable connections are valuable leverage. I'm just a nurse who treated him. You're the woman who saved his life. The woman he's been seen with multiple times. The woman he sends flowers to and visits late at night. Enzo smiled. Don't insult my intelligence by pretending you're nothing to him. What do you want? I want Dante Moretti dead. But since my first attempt failed, I've decided to try a different approach. He stood, circling my chair. I want you to help me. I won't help you kill anyone. I'm not asking you to kill. I'm asking you to deliver a message. He stopped behind me, his hands resting on my shoulders. Tell Dante that if he doesn't step aside, if he doesn't convince his father to cede territory to my family, the next person my men shoot won't be him. You'll shoot me. I'll shoot everyone he loves. Starting with you. Enzo's grip tightened. I'm not a cruel man, Miss Vasquez. I take no pleasure in hurting innocent people. But business is business. And Dante Moretti has been bad for my business. He won't negotiate with terrorists. Then people will die. And their blood will be on his hands. Enzo released me, moving back into view. You have 24 hours to deliver my message. After that, I'll assume the negotiations have failed. And I'll act accordingly. He nodded to his men, and the blindfold returned. When it came off again, I was on a street corner in Manhattan, alone and shaking and absolutely terrified that I did the only thing I could think of. I called Dante. Dante arrived in 17 minutes. I was still standing on that street corner, shaking so hard my teeth chattered, when the black SUV screeched to a halt beside me. He was out of the car before it fully stopped, crossing to me in 3 strides, his face a mask of controlled fury. Elena. His hands found my face, tilting it toward the streetlight, examining me for damage. Are you hurt? Did they touch you? I'm okay. They just talked. Talked. The word came out like a curse. Bianchi kidnapped you off the street to talk. He wanted me to deliver a message. I know what he wanted. Marco already briefed me. His jaw was so tight I thought it might shatter. I'm going to kill him. Slowly. With my bare hands. Dante, no. Don't tell me to calm down. Don't tell me to be rational. His voice cracked. They took you. They put their hands on you. They used you to get to me. There is no rational response to that. The rational response is to keep me alive. I gripped his wrists, forcing him to focus. Bianchi gave us 24 hours. That's time. Time to plan. Time to figure out how to stop him without anyone else getting hurt. I don't want to stop him. I want to destroy him. Then destroy him. After you make sure I'm safe. I held his gaze. Please, Dante. I just spent an hour blindfolded in a car with men who wanted to kill me. I need you to be the man who makes me feel protected, not the man who makes me feel like a pawn in a war. Something shifted in his expression. The fury didn't disappear, but it tempered, contained by something stronger. You're right. He pulled me into his arms, holding me so tight I could barely breathe. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry this happened to you. It's not your fault. It is. Everything about this is my fault. His face buried in my hair. I should have had men on you. Should have anticipated that Bianchi would target you. I was so busy trying to give you space, trying to be normal, that I forgot normal doesn't exist in my world. I didn't want men following me. What you want and what you need are always the same thing. He pulled back to look at me. From now on, you have protection. 24/7. Non-negotiable. Dante, this isn't a request, Elena. This isn't me being possessive or controlling. This is me keeping you alive. His eyes were desperate. Please, let me protect you. It's the only thing I can do. I thought about arguing. Thought about asserting my independence, my autonomy, my right to live my life without armed guards shadowing my every move. Then I thought about the gun against my ribs, the blindfold over my eyes, the cold certainty that I might never see daylight again. Okay, I whispered. Okay. The Moretti estate became my home, not by choice, at least not at first. But the alternative was returning to my tiny apartment where anyone could find me, where a locked door was the only thing between me and men who wanted to use me as leverage till I moved in. Temporarily, I told myself. Just until the Bianchi situation was resolved, that was 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks of armed guards and security briefings and a life that looked nothing like the one I'd built. 3 weeks of watching Dante coordinate a war from his study, making phone calls in rapid Italian, his face hardening with each new piece of intelligence. 3 weeks of falling deeper in love with a man I should have run from. You're staring again. Dante looked up from his laptop, a half smile crossing his face. Is there something on my face? You've been working for 12 hours straight. There's a lot to do. There's always a lot to do. That doesn't mean you can't eat. I set the sandwich I'd made on his desk. Turkey and Swiss. Your favorite. You made me a sandwich? Don't sound so shocked. I do have domestic skills. I wasn't shocked. I was. He trailed off, his expression softening. No one's made me a sandwich since my mother died. The admission hit me harder than I expected. Dante, it's fine. He stood, rounding the desk to pull me into his arms. Thank you. For the sandwich. For being here. For not running away when any sane person would have fled. Sane is overrated. Clearly. He kissed my forehead. How are you feeling? Really? Scared. Trapped. Surprisingly okay with both of those things. I leaned into his chest. Is that weird? It's human. You're adapting to survive. That's what we do. His arms tightened around me. I have news. About Bianchi. Good news or bad news? Complicated news. He guided me to the couch by the fireplace, sitting beside me. We've identified the men who kidnapped you. 2 of them are dead. The others are cooperating. Dead how? Does it matter? Yes. I want to know what's happening in my name. Dante studied me for a long moment. Marco found them. They resisted. He didn't give them the option to continue resisting. His voice was flat. In my world, touching someone under my protection has consequences. Fatal consequences. I should have been horrified. Should have recoiled from this man who spoke about death so casually. Instead, I felt something else. Something that frightened me almost as much as Bianchi had safety. And Bianchi himself. More complicated. He's gone to ground. Hiding behind layers of protection and legal shields we can't easily penetrate. Dante's jaw tightened. But we're getting closer. It's only a matter of time. What happens when you find him? The same thing that happened to his men. His eyes met mine. Does that bother you? It should. But he held a gun to my ribs and threatened to kill everyone you love. My voice hardened. I'm having trouble feeling sympathy for whatever happens to him. That's the survival instinct talking. The desire to see threats eliminated. Or maybe it's just me. I turned to face him fully. You said you contain contradictions. Maybe I do too. Maybe I'm the woman who saves lives in hospitals and also the woman who wants the man who threatened her to suffer. That doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you human. Dante's hand found my face. We're all capable of light and darkness, Elena. The difference is what we do with those capabilities. And what do you do with yours? I protect what's mine. At any cost. His thumb traced my cheekbone. You're mine now. That means anyone who threatens you threatens me. And I don't respond well to threats. I've noticed. Is that going to be a problem? I considered the question. Considered everything I'd learned about him in the past weeks. The violence. The power. The casual relationship with death that would have terrified me a month ago, but also the tenderness. The way he held me when nightmares woke me screaming. The patience as I adjusted to a world I'd never asked to join. The man beneath the monster who cooked me dinner and made me laugh and looked at me like I was the only thing that mattered. No, I said finally. It's not going to be a problem. Even knowing what I am, what I've done. I know who you are, Dante. The real you. Not the reputation or the empire or the body count. I pressed my hand over his heart. I know this. And this is enough. He kissed me then, deep and desperate, with all the fear and love and relief he'd been holding back. I don't deserve you, he murmured against my lips. Probably not. But you have me anyway. Forever. Ask me again when this is over. I'm asking now. I pulled back to look at him. To really look, past the sharp edges and dangerous reputation to the man underneath. Yes, I said. Forever. His smile was like sunrise. The attack on Bianchi came 4 days later that I wasn't supposed to know about it. Dante had tried to shield me from the details, wanting to keep his darkness separate from whatever light we'd built together, but I heard the phone calls. Saw the men mobilizing. Felt him slip from our bed at 3 a.m., thinking I was asleep. Be careful, I whispered as he reached the door. He froze. Turn back. You're awake. I couldn't sleep. Knowing what tonight is, I sat up in bed. Come back to me. Always. Crossed back to kiss me, soft and lingering. This ends tonight. One way or another. Promise me you'll be safe. I can't promise that. But I can promise I'll do everything possible to come home to you. His forehead touched mine. I love you, Elena. I love you too. Tears burned my eyes. Now go. End this. He left, and I was alone with my fear and my prayers and the terrible certainty that nothing would ever be the same. He came back at dawn. I heard the cars first. Then footsteps. Then the door to our bedroom opening to reveal Dante, blood-stained but whole, exhausted but alive. It's done, he said simply. I was out of bed and in his arms before the words fully registered. Bianchi? Dead. Along with his top lieutenants. The organization is fractured. They won't threaten us again. Are you hurt? Nothing serious. A few bruises. He held me tight. It's over, Elena. You're safe. I should have asked questions. Should have wanted details about what happened, who died, how it all ended. Instead, I just held him because he was home. He was safe. And whatever darkness he'd walked through tonight, he'd walked back out again for me. I need a shower, he murmured against my hair. I'll join you. You don't have to. I want to. I pulled back to look at him. I want to wash the blood away. I want to remind you that there's more to life than violence. I want to show you that whatever you had to become tonight, you can be something else with me. His eyes glistened. Elena, come on. I took his hand. Let me take care of you. We stood under the hot water together, washing away the evidence of what he'd done, and somehow impossibly finding peace in the aftermath of war. Peace was strange. After weeks of fear and violence and the constant certainty that death lurked around every corner, the absence of threat felt almost uncomfortable. Like my body had forgotten how to exist without adrenaline. You're restless, Dante observed one morning, watching me pace our bedroom. You've been restless for days. I'm not used to having nothing to do. You could go back to work. The hospital would take you back in a heartbeat. I know. I stopped pacing, staring out the window at the winter garden below. But everything feels different now. Like I can't go back to being the person I was before. You're not the person you were before. Neither am I. He rose from bed, crossing to wrap his arms around me from behind. We've been through something together. That changes people. What if I don't like who I'm becoming? Who are you becoming? Someone who's okay with violence. Someone who slept peacefully the night you killed a man. I turned in his arms to face him. That's not the woman who became a nurse to save lives. It's the woman who survived. Who adapted. Who refused to break under pressure. His hands cupped my face. You haven't lost who you are, Elena. You've expanded. Made room for new experiences without abandoning the old ones. That sounds like rationalization. That sounds like growth. He kissed my forehead. Go back to the hospital. Save lives. Remind yourself why you became a nurse in the first place. The darkness will still be here when you come home. Is that what this place is now? Home. I hope so. His voice softened. I wanted to be. I looked around the room that had become so familiar over the past weeks. The four-poster bed where we'd laughed and loved and held each other through nightmares. The window where I watched the sunrise every morning. The closet that now held my clothes beside his. Feels like home, I admitted. That's what scares me. Why? Because if this is home, then I'm not a guest anymore. I'm not someone passing through on the way to somewhere safer. I met his eyes. I'm part of this. Part of you. Part of everything that comes with being yours. And that frightens you? It should, shouldn't it? The logical part of my brain is screaming that I've lost my mind. That I've thrown away my independence for a man I've known for 6 weeks. What does the illogical part say? That I'd rather be here in this terrifying, beautiful life than anywhere else in the world. Tears burned my eyes. That I love you so much it physically hurts. That when you said I belonged to you, some part of me already knew it was true. Dante's breath caught. Elena, I'm done fighting it. I pressed my hand over his heart. I'm done pretending this is temporary or conditional or something I can walk away from. I'm yours, Dante. Completely. Whatever that means. He kissed me then, fierce and tender and full of everything words couldn't express. Marry me, he breathed against my lips. I pulled back, stunned. What? Marry me. He said it again with more certainty. Not eventually. Not when things settle down. Now. As soon as possible. Dante, we've only known each other for 6 weeks. I know. I don't care. His eyes burned into mine. I've spent 34 years feeling nothing for anyone. Convinced I'd die alone, that love was a weakness I couldn't afford. Then you came along and saved my life in ways that had nothing to do with medicine. This is insane. Probably. But I've never been more certain of anything. He dropped to one knee right there in our bedroom wearing nothing but sweatpants in desperation. I don't have a ring. I don't have a speech prepared. I just have the absolute conviction that you're the only woman I'll ever want. The only person who's ever seen me, really seen me, and not run away. I tried to run away. Multiple times. And you came back. Every time you came back. His hands gripped mine. Marry me, Elena. Let me spend the rest of my life proving that you made the right choice. I looked at him. This man who'd turned my world upside down. Who'd shown me darkness and light in equal measure. Who loved me with an intensity that should have been terrifying but instead felt like coming home. Yes. The word escaped before I could overthink it. Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. I laughed through tears. You're insane. I'm insane. This whole situation is absolutely insane. Is that a yes? That's a hell yes. I pulled him to his feet and into my arms. Now kiss me before I change my mind. He obliged enthusiastically. The ring appeared 3 hours later. I was in the kitchen making coffee when Marco arrived with a small velvet box. He handed it to Dante without a word, his expression carefully neutral. How did you? I started. I called my jeweler the moment you said yes. He had something appropriate in inventory. Dante opened the box to reveal a ring that stole my breath. It was platinum, delicate but substantial, with an emerald-cut diamond surrounded by smaller stones that caught the light like captured stars. Simple. Elegant. Perfect. The center stone was my mother's, Dante said quietly. My father gave it to her when they got engaged. After she died, I kept it, thinking I'd never have anyone to give it to. Dante, I can't take your mother's ring. You're not taking it. I'm giving it. He slid it onto my finger. She would have loved you. She spent her whole life surrounded by cold, calculating people, and she always wished for something different. Something warm. Someone who could see past the darkness. You think she'd approve? I know she would. He kissed my hand above the ring. Welcome to the family, Elena Vasquez. Meeting Vincent Moretti was nothing like I expected. Dante's father was dying, that I should have guessed from the way Dante spoke about him. The careful distance, the unresolved tension, the constant references to taking over the family business. But I hadn't connected the pieces until we walked into the medical wing of the Moretti estate, because of course they had a medical wing. Vincent lay in a hospital bed surrounded by equipment I recognized from work. Heart monitors. For drips. Oxygen supply. The infrastructure of extended illness. Cancer, Dante said quietly as we approached. Pancreatic. Stage 4. The doctors gave him 6 months about 5 months ago. I'm so sorry. Don't be. He lived exactly the life he wanted. Built an empire. Raised a family in his way. Dante's voice was complicated. We had our differences. But he's still my father. Vincent's eyes opened as we reached the bed. They were the same green as Dante's, but faded now, dimmed by illness and pain. So, his voice was a rasp. This is the nurse who saved my son. This is Elena. Dante took my hand. My fiancé. Something flickered in Vincent's expression. Surprise, maybe. Or approval. Fiancé. That was fast. When you know, you know. Vincent's gaze fixed on me with unsettling intensity. Come closer, girl. Let me see you properly. I approached the bed, trying not to show my nerves. This man had built a criminal empire. Had ordered deaths. Had shaped Dante into the complicated, dangerous, loving man he'd become. You're not what I expected, Vincent observed. What did you expect? Someone harder. More calculating. The kind of woman who pursues men like my son for their money or their power. His lips twitched. Instead, I see a nurse who probably earns less in a year than Dante spends on wine. Money isn't everything. Tell that to the people fighting over my empire when I'm gone. He coughed, the sound wet and painful. You saved Dante's life. Why? Because that's my job. No. You went beyond your job. You fought for him when others would have let him go. Those fading eyes held mine. Why? I thought about the question. About the night in the trauma unit when I'd refused to give up. About the something that had pulled me to this man before I knew his name. I don't know, I admitted. Something in me just recognized him. Knew he wasn't supposed to die that night. Knew I had to keep fighting. Fate, Vincent said quietly. My wife believed in fate. Said she knew the moment she met me that we were meant to be together. He looked at Dante. She was wrong, of course. I made her miserable. But she never stopped believing. Father, don't. Vincent held up a trembling hand. I'm dying. I'm allowed to be honest. His eyes returned to me. Don't let my son make you miserable. He has my worst qualities, the obsession, the possessiveness, the inability to let go. Don't let him consume you the way I consumed his mother. I won't. How can you be sure? 'Cause I've already told him no. Multiple times. I've pushed back when he pushed too hard. I've demanded space when he wanted to suffocate me. I squeezed Dante's hand. I love your son, but I won't disappear into him. I know who I am, and I'll keep being that person no matter what. Vincent studied me for a long moment, then impossibly he smiled. Good. He reached out, his cold hand closing over mine. Protect him from himself. He needs someone to do that. I will. And give me grandchildren. Before I die, if possible. I'd like to see the future before I'm no longer part of it. Father. Dante's face reddened. What? I'm dying. I can say whatever I want. Vincent's smile faded, exhaustion overtaking him. Go now. Let an old man sleep. But come back tomorrow. I want to know more about the woman who's brave enough to love my son. We left him there, surrounded by machines and memories, the empire he'd built slowly slipping from his grasp. He likes you, Dante said as we walked back to our wing. That's rare. He's terrifying. He's dying. That changes people. Dante pulled me close. Thank you. For being you. For not pretending to be someone else. Why would I pretend? 'Cause most people do. Around him. Around me. They show us what they think we want to see. Kissed my temple. You just showed him the truth. And somehow that was enough. The truth is usually enough. In your world, maybe. In mine, it's revolutionary. He smiled. Let's go home. I want to spend the rest of the day reminding myself why I'm marrying you. That could take a while. I'm counting on it. Vincent Moretti died on a Tuesday morning. I was with him when it happened. Donna had been called away for an emergency, something about territory disputes that couldn't wait, and I'd stayed behind, unwilling to let the old man die alone. It was the nurse in me, I told myself. Professional instinct, but it was more than that. In the 3 weeks since our first meeting, Vincent and I had developed an unlikely friendship. He'd requested my company daily, wanting to hear about my work, my childhood, the life I'd lived before his son crashed into it. In return, he'd told me stories about Dante's mother, about the empire he'd built, about his regrets, so many regrets, and the hopes he still held for his son's future. He's different with you, Vincent said that final morning, his voice barely a whisper. Softer. More human. He was always human. You just couldn't see it. Maybe. His hand found mine. Or maybe you brought out what was already there. A rattling breath. Promise me something. Anything. Don't let this world destroy him. He'll want to become cold. Hard. Like I was. It's easier that way. His eyes, so like Dante's, held mine with surprising intensity. But easier isn't better. Keep him warm, Elena. Keep him human. I promise. And protect yourself too. This life takes more than it gives. Don't let it take everything. I won't. Good. He smiled, and for a moment I could see the young man he'd been. Charming, dangerous, full of dreams that had long since turned to ash. Tell Dante, tell him I'm proud of him. Tell him his mother would have been proud too. I'll tell him. And tell him to be happy. For once in his miserable life, be happy. A tear slipped down his weathered cheek. I never was. Not really. But maybe he can be. With you. He will be. I'll make sure of it. Vincent squeezed my hand one last time, then his eyes closed and the monitors began to wail. Dante arrived 20 minutes too late. He stood in the doorway of his father's room, staring at the covered body, his face completely blank. I should have been here. You couldn't have known. I should have been here. His voice cracked. He was my father. Whatever else he was my father. And I wasn't here. He knew you loved him. I crossed to him, taking his hands. His last words were about you. How proud he was. How proud your mother would have been. He said that. He said he wanted you to be happy. For once in your life, truly happy. I cupped his face. That's what he wanted for you, Dante. Not the empire. Not the power. Happiness. Dante broke that I'd never seen him cry before. Through gunshot wounds and death threats and the violence that surrounded his life, he'd remained stoic. Controlled. The unshakable leader everyone needed him to be, but here in the room where his father had just died, He crumbled. I held him while he sobbed, absorbing his grief the way the ocean absorbs rivers, without judgment, without resistance, just acceptance. His tears soaked my shoulder. His body shook against mine. And I loved him through all of it. "I've got you," I murmured. "I've got you. Don't leave me. Never. Promise." "I promise." I pulled back to look at him, wiping tears from his cheeks. "I'm yours, remember? That works both ways." He kissed me then, desperate and sad and full of gratitude. "I love you," he breathed. "So much it terrifies me." "I know. I love you too." I held him close. "Now let's say goodbye to your father. Together." The funeral was massive. 300 people came to pay their respects. Business associates, family members, rivals who showed up to confirm that Vincent Moretti was truly dead. The church overflowed with flowers and mourners and the complicated legacy of a man who'd built an empire on blood and fear. I stood beside Dante through all of it, through the eulogy he delivered with trembling voice, through the endless condolences from people who didn't mean them, through the reception where alliances were formed and threats were veiled as compliments. "You did well," I told him that night when we were finally alone. "Your father would have been proud. I did what was necessary." He stared into the fireplace, whiskey untouched in his hand. "Tomorrow I officially take control. The empire becomes mine. How do you feel about that?" "I feel like I've been preparing for this my entire life." He turned to face me. "And like I'm completely unprepared for what comes next." "You'll figure it out. You always do." "Will you help me?" Question caught me off guard. "Help you how?" "Be my partner. Not just my wife, but my equal. Help me navigate the politics and the personalities and the endless maze of family business." His eyes held mine. "I can't do this alone. I don't want to. I'm a nurse, Dante. I save lives. I don't understand your world. You understand people. Motivations. What drives someone to fight and what makes them give up." He took my hands. "You see things I miss. Feel things I've trained myself not to feel. I need that. I need you. I won't help you hurt people. I know. I wouldn't ask you to." He paused. "But there's more to this world than violence. There's diplomacy and negotiation and finding solutions that don't involve bloodshed. That's what I want to build. And I want you beside me while I build it." I thought about what he was asking. About the life I'd planned, the hospital, the patients, the ordinary existence that had been enough before he arrived. Was it still enough? "I'll help you," I said finally. "But I'm also going back to work. Part-time. At the hospital. You want to do both?" "I want to be more than one thing. Your partner in this world, yes. But also myself. The nurse who saves lives. The woman who existed before you. Can you balance both?" "I don't know. But I want to try." I squeezed his hands. "Can you accept that? A wife who won't be completely absorbed by your world?" His smile was slow and warm. "I wouldn't have it any other way." We married in the spring. The ceremony was small, just family and close friends in the garden of the estate, surrounded by flowers that had just begun to bloom. I wore a simple white dress that Dante said made me look like an angel. He wore a dark suit and an expression of wonder that made my heart ache. "You're staring," I whispered as I reached him at the altar. "You're beautiful. You've seen me beautiful before. Not like this." His eyes swept over me with reverent intensity. "Not walking toward me, about to become my wife." The ceremony was traditional, Italian traditions from his family mixed with Catholic prayers from mine. We exchanged vows that we'd written ourselves, words that spoke of darkness and light, survival and hope, the impossible love that had grown from the most unlikely beginning. "I fell in love with you while I was dying," Dante said, his voice rough with emotion. "Your hands brought me back. Your voice called me home. Before I knew your name, I knew I was yours." I fell in love with you while you were living, I responded. The man who cooked me dinner and cried at opera and looked at me like I was extraordinary. The darkness doesn't scare me, Dante, 'cause I know what's underneath. And that's who I'm marrying today. The priest pronounced us husband and wife, and Dante kissed me like the world was ending and beginning all at once. Finally, he murmured against my lips. Finally, I agreed. 1 year later, I stood in the nursery we'd built together, watching our daughter sleep. Sofia Maria Moretti had her father's green eyes and my dark hair. She was 3 months old, already fierce and demanding, with a cry that could summon every guard in the estate within seconds. She was perfect. She has your stubbornness, Dante observed, appearing behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. She has your lungs. I've never heard anyone scream that loud. Moretti trait. We're passionate people. He rested his chin on my shoulder. I never thought I'd have this. A screaming baby? A family. A real one. A wife who loves me. A daughter who will probably rule the world someday. His voice softened. When you saved my life that night, you gave me more than heartbeats. You gave me this. All of this. You gave it to yourself. I just opened the door. Then thank you for opening the door. He turned me to face him. Thanked you for staying when you should have run. For fighting when you should have given up. For loving me when I probably didn't deserve it. You deserved it. You just didn't believe you did. I believe it now. Kissed me softly. Because of you. Sophia stirred in her crib, making the soft sounds that meant she'd be fully awake within minutes. Your turn, I said. It's always my turn. You're the one who wanted her to have a sibling soon. Consider this practice. A sibling? Already? We talked about this. We talked about eventually. Not immediately. Well, eventually just got moved up. I smiled at his confused expression. I was going to wait for a special moment to tell you, but his eyes dropped to my stomach. Widened. You're 8 weeks. Again? Apparently Morettis are passionate about reproduction too. He laughed, pulling me into his arms, spinning me gently in the nursery while our daughter began to fuss. Another baby. He set me down, his face glowing. Another chance to get it right. You're getting it right now. With Sophia. With me. With everything. Then another chance to keep getting it right. He kissed me deeply. I love you, Elena Moretti. I love you too, Dante. I smiled against his lips. Now go get your daughter before she wakes up the entire estate. He went, scooping Sophia from her crib with the practiced ease of a devoted father. I watched them together, my husband and our daughter, the family we'd built from the ashes of violence and fear, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete peace. It had started with a gunshot wound and a nurse who refused to let go. It had become something extraordinary. And as I watched Dante dance around the nursery with our daughter in his arms, singing Italian lullabies in his terrible off-key voice, I knew that whatever came next, whatever darkness the future held, we would face it together because I belonged to him and he belonged to me, and that was exactly how it was supposed to be. Thank you so much for joining me for this story. Not immediately. Well, eventually just got moved up. I smiled at his confused expression. I was going to wait for a special moment to tell you, but his eyes dropped to my stomach. Widened. You're 8 weeks. Again? Apparently Morettis are passionate about reproduction too. He laughed, pulling me into his arms, spinning me gently in the nursery while our daughter began to fuss. Another baby. He set me down, his face glowing. Another chance to get it right. You're getting it right now.